take it people can see me. I can't see them, I don't think. And if you're unmuted and you want to ask me a question, feel free to call it out. If you type it in, Jody will ask me the question. So for those of you that I have not met before, which I don't think is a lot, but my name is Michael Devlin. I have a real estate team. I have a big real estate team, a mega team. Over 116 salespeople are on my team in the state of California. I'm in the top 1% of all real estate teams in the United States. And the only reason that well, there's two reasons for me to say that. Number one is to brag. I'm a real estate agent, right? And you know, if you win an award, right, you take pictures and on social media. So I had to get that out of the way, right? And the other is just to let you know that we have a lot of experience with doing this. Right? You understand we are doing 15 or so escrows every month. And, you know, it starts to add up. So RPR is the Realtor's Property Resource. And when I'm talking to agents about what do you really need to know? I mean, what do you really need to know as a real estate agent? And it's not everything. Like sometimes I meet real estate agents who say, well, I want to know everything before I start selling real estate. And then I tell them, you're going to be my age before you sell a house, right? Isn't that sad? Just to think about that, right? You know, and you don't want to wait that long. What are the four things that you would need to know how to use as a real estate agent? Well, number one would be the multiple listing service. I'm hearing voices. I don't know. But anyhow, number one is the multiple listing service. Number two would be RPR, the Realtor's Property Resource. Now, I'm going to be modifying that as we go along because I'm going to be throwing in artificial intelligence as one of the things you need to know. But you need to know how to use zip forms, and you need to know how to use a customer relationship management system. What do we use RPR for? What do you use RPR for? Anything? How many of you know that RPR exists? I still meet agents who don't know that. Okay. So what do you use it for? This is the audience participation opportunity, if you're wondering, you know.
Or CMAs.
Okay, good, thank you. Don't everybody blurt out an answer at once, you know, Market trends.
Market reports.
Market reports. What do you do with them? Market reports. Share them with a client. Do you really do that? Do you really do that? Share market reports with clients? Really? I mean, tell me the truth. I mean, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. What is so market reports, what else? Anybody?
CMAs.
So the Country Music Awards, right, is that what we're talking about? Anyhow, the CMA, the comparative market analysis. What else? We're running out of
Property ownership.
Property ownership, yeah. What can we do with that? Jody's the only person, just so those of you on Zoom don't understand, there's only one person in the room besides me and Badal.
No, this is Zoom. Zoom is answering.
Oh, Zoom is answering. Oh,
thank you, Zoom.
Now I get it. Oh, it's a little slow today. Okay. Yes, we could use Realist. We could use the title company profiles. We could use RPR. Is there any way to find real estate clients in RPR? No. What? She's whispering. Oh, there must be, otherwise I wouldn't have mentioned it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the issues, how many of you are interested in pre-foreclosure properties? Distress sales, notices of default, notices of sale. You know, when is the auction? That sort of thing. All of that is in RPR.
Probate.
What?
Probate.
Probate. Well, not so much. Our probate wouldn't necessarily show up as a recorded thing, except in the, you know, I mean, that wouldn't show up in RPR. right? Probate is a recorded thing. It doesn't get recorded in that sense, so it doesn't show up. We're going to go through that, and I'm going to show you some things that you could do with RPR to find business. How about one for just to kick us off? Supposing you have a client that wants to, like I had somebody, Silver Creek, condo, this model, right? Certain square footage, Silver Creek, a condominium. Well, I could go into RPR. They also had a budget, right, which is high in Silver Creek, but anyhow, they had a budget. So I can go into RPR and I can tell it, I want to know everybody that owns one of those condominiums in Silver Creek. I want to know. And it'll spit that out for me. You could even, if somebody said, well, I want to buy a home in Blossom Valley, but I don't want to pay more than 1.3 and it needs to be 4 bedrooms, good luck. But anyhow, if that's what they want, you could in RPR identify Blossom Valley, and because RPR has a what is the home worth, the realtor's valuation model, you can say, I want to see all the homes that are in Blossom Valley that have 4 bedrooms whose value is under this amount. All right, now we're going to talk about other ways of getting that same information, but just so you understand, RPR can be used for more than CMAs. Now, if you're going to ask me, Michael, what do you use RPR for? The answer is CMAs. All right, which is what I would say 95% of all use of RPR. We're going to go through this, but so I put together a handout just so you'd get your money's worth. We'll see. And let me see if I can do this. Oh, there we go. I don't know. Yeah, you don't. One of the values of RPR is that it isn't a public facing site. What does that mean? It means that the general public, the muggles, right, aren't going to be able to see it. How would that help you? Let's say you have a client that wants to buy a house in Georgetown, Texas, right, which is a suburb of Austin. How many homes are for sale in Georgetown, Texas right now? Do you know? RPR does. And if you, because I've had people say, well, I'm thinking of moving to Georgetown and we're going to sell our house here in San Jose and we're going to move there. Is there anything we could get in that area of this value, this many bedrooms and bathrooms? RPR will tell me. In addition, RPR will show me the private remarks of the listing agents in Texas. It'll give me their phone number, their cell phone, their email, and all of the private remarks. Would that be useful, right? If I had somebody. Yes, question, sir.
I have a home that I own in San Jose. The RPR has it listed for 561. All the other homes are 1.5 million. I'm calling RPR people to try to find out how to change value.
The question is, how do you get RPR to change a value? I don't know if there's a good answer to that. At least I don't know it. Does Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, they all say the same. So RPR, we're going to look at that. RPR's confidence model is based upon how its measurement is the same as all the others, right? But I don't know, other than talking to them, how you can change that. I could give you the name of one of their trainers that I know, and send me, and that is going around teaching RPR and see if we can do something with. So, yeah. I don't know the answer to why that particular. So that brings up a very good point. However, RPR is not perfect. By not perfect, I means that sometimes it thinks homes are for sale that are not, and sometimes it thinks they are not and they are. And one of the challenges that RPR has is that it is syndicating information and data from how many different MLSs do you think there are in the United States? Hundreds, hundreds. Do they all use the same software? No. We use Matrix, right? Bridge uses Paragon. San Francisco uses Rapatoni. In other areas, they use Flex. Can you see the challenge of getting data from all these different services into one place? We also, so we're going to go through RPR in a moment, and we're going to, if you have something specific that you would like to see it done, let me know. I'm not going to explain how to fill out your profile. Right, I'm not going to do that. You know, there's a picture of you in the top right. Click on it, go to profile. We're not going to do that. We're going to be more specific. There are new reports. One of the things that got me to want to do this again, because I've made many RPR classes over the years, is that they have new reports. What's the difference? Well, they look a little different. What else? They're dynamic. Now, the difference is that in the past, let's say a market report. Let's say I ran a market report for Santa Teresa. And that's a static report. It's a PDF. Now they give me a link, which I could share, but it's still a PDF. And if the market changes, it does not change. The new reports that RPR has are dynamic links. So if we're saying Santa Teresa market report and there's new listings and new sales, it will automatically update without you having to do anything. All right? Does that work for a CMA? No. Why not? You have to pick your comps, right? You have to pick the comps. But what neighborhood reports, market reports, property reports, if the status changes, will update, right? But not the CMA. That's a difference. And the editor is a little bit better, and it all works on your phone app. How many of you have the RPR app on your phone? If you raise your hand, you have to, well, I'm sure he does. Does any, no, 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 no? Oh, wow. MLS, I wouldn't touch it, MLS Touch. I don't, but I don't use MLS Touch. Right. What do you use MLS Touch for? Yeah, I use RPR.
Oh, and that doesn't, because it has confidential marks.
Yes. And the agent's phone number and email address, text messages, ways to contact them. So you ought to have RPR on your phone. I had one of my Padawans was doing an open house in East Palo Alto. A guy comes in, he wants to sell his house, which is a good thing. My team member had never listed a house. So she books an appointment. And she was going to bring me, right? Because she had never sold a house. And she actually told the guy that she had never sold a house, but she was bringing me and all that other kind of stuff. So the way we divided up the labor was she was going to do the CMA, and my job was to get him to sign the listing agreement. So she does the CMA, she goes to Realist RPR, she looks, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot. She does CMA. Now, one of the questions that I would always ask a seller, I would say, describe your house to me. Describe it. She did not ask him that. So she's got a CMA for a 3.2, 1,300 square foot house. We show up, it's a 5.3, 2,800 square foot house. They had done some improvements without permits. By the way, the owner was a state housing inspector. Not kidding, right? And he had an unpermitted ADU. And so what's the value of our CMA? Worthless. I told her, hide it, right? The guy was saying, what do you think? And I told him, I'm different from other agents. I just don't show up and give you an estimate. That's unprofessional. Appraisers wouldn't do that. They would want to look at the house first. And you understand, I'm just BSing, right? Because I don't have one, So I'm giving him a reason why I might not have one. And so while I'm sitting there talking to him, I pull up RPR. Now, RPR automatically, based upon GPS, looks at what's going on around, and I noticed that a few doors down, there is another house that was about 1,300 square feet, built about the same time, that had also unpermitted additions, and I saw what it sold for. And after a while, I said to the guy, 1.2. That's, by the way, what it sold for eventually. So that is a very valuable thing, right? If you are standing in front of a house, it'll tell you who owns it. It'll tell you who owns it. Oh, how about this? Is that bigger? Next time, show up in person. You're missing the omelet bar, the mimosa table at in the corner. All right, no, never mind. All right. So what are the things I did? And we're going to jump into our, so you ought to have that on your phone. It'll tell you, I always have it when I'm showing property. Because if they start asking questions, right, it's all there, right? It's all there. I don't have to switch back and forth. I've got it. So what my recommendation is if you're using RPR mobile, you do research first on RPR and you can save that search and those listings. And then when you're on the mobile app, there's a button that says saved properties. You click on it and it pulls it up right away. Right? I don't print out stuff and take it with me when I'm showing property. Right? I take RPR mobile when I'm showing property. And once you've installed RPR mobile, install Zip Forms mobile as well while you're at it. I've given you a list of the different reports and how they've changed and what they're for. The legacy reports are what they call old reports. All right, I'm a legacy agent, I guess, I don't know. And it explains what the difference is between the new reports, which I'm going to show you once we get to them, which I'm going to do now because, it's about time. All right. So this is what RPR looks like to begin with. If we were going to do, let me see, is there one I could do that's, how about this one? All right. Let's see if the status has changed. It hasn't. Still, we wrote an offer on this yesterday, which was not accepted. But anyhow, so this is what an active. Now, my suggestion, right, if you're going to be showing property to a buyer, my suggestion is that in advance, you look at all the properties you're going to show on RPR, save them, and create a property report that you can share with the buyer before you show the property. Now, the reason I do this is because I learned the hard way, because I'd be showing properties and the buyer would say, so what do you think? Is this a good price? Think this is a good price? And I'm like, I was lucky to have gotten to the house on time and unlocking the door, right? You understand, all I had done is pull up what's active that fits their criteria to go show it. I hadn't run comps. I don't know. And I found out that saying I don't know was not a good answer to the question, is this a good price or not? Not a good answer. So I create a spreadsheet when I'm showing property. I have information from the MLS, sort of a summary in the spreadsheet, and I include a link to the RPR property report so that the client could look at it before I show property. Just saying, right? Easy to do. So notice it says, let's just go through this as an example. RVM stands for the Realtor's Valuation Model. Now, one of the first things I would notice looking at this is over on the right, the confidence is 4 stars, not 5. Now, is that accuracy? No, not really. The stars represent how does RPR's value estimate match Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, etc. And if they all are matching, you would see 5 stars. The fewer stars you see, it means the fewer comps they were able to find that are meaningful. And if you only have 1 or 2 stars, have an appraisal contingency. That's my, if there's only one, have an appraisal contingency because we don't really know what it's worth. Now, the first thing I would do is notice it says the RVM is 1,228,630. You could either click on the number or view details. It takes you to the same place. I tell agents, if you don't have the time to run a CMA for an open house or something, just print out this page, right? Is it as accurate as a CMA? No, it just doesn't take very long. So what this is showing us are the comps that RPR found that it thinks is a match for this property. Now, if we hover over them, it'll start to pull up information. But what I simply do at this point is I scroll down and we're looking for a 3.2, 1248 square foot built in 1957. Scroll down. Here's a 3.2 but 1940. Here's a 3.2 1924. Can you see why it doesn't have 5 stars? Here's a 4.2. Here's a 3.2 built in 1957. Does everybody see that? Now, since I've done this before on this property, I happen to know that there aren't very many 3.2s built in 1957. Grizzly Peak, 1,150,000. Down here is another one, but notice the square footage is bigger. If you don't know this, if no one's ever told you, I'm telling you now, square footage and dollars per square foot is not linear. As the square footage goes up, dollars per square foot go down. As square footage goes down, dollars per square foot goes up. Why? Because certain components of a house, foundation, kitchen, heating, don't scale. In other words, if the house is twice the square footage, it isn't twice the heater. It isn't twice the air conditioning. It's not twice, you understand? It's not twice. So as it goes up, they become less comparable, right? You understand? Don't use a 2,126 square foot house as a great comp for a 1,248. Yes.
Way down Grizzly Peak, so I know what you're talking about there. The challenges that I was running, and I'm not really used to RPR, I just create my CMA off, and that's what
Yeah.
what I noticed was what they report as square footage, unless there's literally every house out there just says that disclaimer, we have not checked.
Yeah.
So does RPR pull from what they're saying, or does it look at county record as well?
So the question is, how does RPR know what the square footage is? The first answer is they pull it from the tax records, but you can change it. I'll show you, right, in a minute. All right, can you wait?
Yep.
All right. So does everybody see what we would really like as a comp is a 3.2 built in 1957 that was close to the square footage of ours. Now we'll take 3.2s built in 1957. Now at this point, there's nothing really for me to do. Why am I doing this? I want to make sure that if there's another 3.2 built in 1957, I know what it is. Because when we do the CMA, I want to make sure that one is included. And yes, you could do that. So all right. So now we're going to all right, I'm going to do the most common thing, which is run a CMA. I look at the details down here, the basic facts. This one's been in RPR. I look at how the owner owns it, right? Is it a trust? Right? If it's in probate, it won't say that. But if it's a trust, it would say that. This is not a trust. We have pricing tools, refined value, I'm going to get to in a moment. Estimated equity, it's pretty easy. Let's do a CMA. Does that sound like fun? And by the way, if you have an address and you want me to do one, maybe, because usually when agents ask me to do a CMA for an address, they've got something that is impossible to comp, right? Because otherwise, why would they ask me? So it says CMA, there is an advanced CMA, which RPR thinks appraisers would use, right? They don't, but RPR thinks they could. So the advanced CMA is more like an appraisal report, a market data appraisal report, than it is what we would call a CMA. I don't use that, right? I know people that do, but I don't. When would you use it? What profession would the sellers need to be in before you pulled out the complicated one? engineers, you know. However, there's some there's limitations. So I don't do the advanced one. We're just going to do a general one, and I'll explain why. More data is not always better, right? Not always better. So we're going to go over to where it says Home Facts Edit. Now, let's say when we were talking to the seller about listing their home, the agent said, "So describe your home to me." And the owner said, "Well, sure, I have a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house, and it's about 2,500 square feet." Now you'll notice that there's 2 columns already here. One is the tax records, one is the listing. Now let's say there was no listing data, but I was going on a listing appointment, but I know it's a 5.3. I know that it's got more bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage. I can put them in here. I could say it's really a 5-bedroom and it's really 3 baths and it really is 2,500 square feet. Now, whatever I put in that column will modify RPR search criteria. If I don't put anything there, it's only going to look for something that would be a comp for the 3.2. Right now, they may include some others, but it isn't focused on it. And its calculations of value are based upon what tax records say the square footage is, not what we're looking at. So questions that I get about this. One is, which always I have to keep myself from snickering when I get asked this. I try to answer it with a straight face, but hundreds of agents over the years have asked me, if I put different numbers under my changes, does that change the county tax records? I've been asked that a lot. And I have to bite my lip and then calmly explain that they do not allow real estate agents to, on their own, change county records, right? So no, it's not, don't worry. By whatever you write in here, only you and your client will know. So we're going to take that out because it isn't, because we have a listing. So do you understand if the listing may already say this? Now, what do you do if the listing says 5.3, 2,500 square feet, but that's not what the tax records say? That means that it was probably done without permits. I get asked this question by agents. So I'm on a listing appointment. It says tax records 3.2, 1,300 square feet. It's a 5.3, 2,500 square feet. What do I put down in the MLS? Do I put down 3.2 or do I put down 5.3? What should we do? Should we put down the assessor's statistics? And you have all right, so the answer was he'd put down what it is. By the way, that's my answer. What I say to agents when they call me, because I get calls sometimes from the house, I don't know what to do. It says 3.2, but it's a 5.3. What do I do? What should I put in the MLS? And my answer is, when you walked through the house, how many bedrooms did you see? Well, there was 5. Put that down. How many bathrooms did you see? Well, there was 3. Put that down. All right, well, what is the appraiser going to do? What will the appraiser do? My answer is, when the appraiser walks through the house, how many bedrooms do they see? 5. How many bathrooms will they see? 3. Now, is the appraiser likely to make a note that this may have been done without permits because it isn't reflected in the tax records? Maybe they should, they usually do, but they're going to appraise what they see, not the tax records. If we put it in the MLS as a 3.2, but it's really a 5.3, none of the people that want 5.3s are ever going to look at it. I've had agents say, well, if they look at it, then I could explain to them why, and they're not even going to look at it because it doesn't match their search criteria. You make it say what it looks like. Now, do we have to, we could put something in the private remarks that say, you know, we really don't know. That, by the way, is in the residential purchase agreement. It's in the statewide buyer and seller advisory. It's in the buyer inspection advisory. It is already 4 or 5 times and all the things they say, they sign that says that we really don't know what the square footage is. And if you care, you ought to go figure it out. He says, we can put it if they we not verified. Right, that, by the way, has no legal meaning. I just want you to know, it has no legal meaning. You can put in the MLS, where did two is, this is what the says. And 3, which is one you should never pick, is what do you as an agent think? What is? Don't measure houses. Don't do it, right? Because if you're off, you're going to meet lawyers. Right. So we're going to just go down and say, we've confirmed the facts. Is everybody with me? Right. So, all right. So now we're going to go to for an agent. All right. It doesn't take very long. I've had some practice, but I would start with draw a shape and I would do a radius. I do that because I'm lazy. All right, I don't want to, I just want to do something easy, right? I'm a real estate agent, right? So I'm going to go out 1/2 of a mile, right? Now, 1/4 of a mile would give me more relevant comps. Location, you know, all that stuff. So, but an appraiser would not go out to a mile, any more than a mile unless it's a rural property and there are no comps. 1/2 of a mile is still pushing it. But I want to see. Now notice one of the choices is search in this area. I'm going to click on it and notice not a lot came up, which is why, you know, we don't know. Now, when not a lot come up, what I'll do is I'll modify the search, and rather than expanding it geographically, I'll go back further in time. Now, that sometimes produces no other comps. And if it still doesn't find any comps, I may go back 1 year. Now this is, you know, I don't know. Let's see. All right, now we're starting to get comps. Will an appraiser go back a year? They don't want to. They usually only go back 6 months. Why would I do that? Let's say we found a 8-month-old comp that was a perfect match, but it's 8 months. Can we calculate how much housing prices have increased or decreased in that zip code in the last 8 months? Is that a known number? The answer is yes. So if we know that prices have gone up 5%, and we know that our one good comp was this, we could add 5% and we've got something. Right, you understand what we're really looking for is a whole bunch of 3.2s that sold in the last 2 months that are within 1/4 of a mile, but sometimes we don't get what we want. So of these, I'm looking at this one, it's a 2-1. Well, that's not going to work. Right, you understand? I mean, if there's nothing else, we'll use it. But 2 1s versus 3 2s, yeah, you know, I'll go over to this one and click on it. A 4-3. Can you see why they don't have 5 stars here? All right, that's not going to work. I'm going to go to this one. Here we go. A 3-2. This one I've looked at. And the other way we could do it is just scroll down here. When you see a star, the star means that that property was used in RPR's valuation. This one, too, see, this is what's wrong with RPR's automated valuation model, because it's just looking for things in the area, and I usually would not use a 2-1 for a 3-2, right? I just don't think we're talking about the same market. This one here, however, how about that one? 3-2 built the same year. Look at, it's less than 1/4 of a mile away, right? Talking about right around the corner. We go down, Here's another built in 1950, another, all right. You see the problem. Now, what I might do, if you're asking, well, what do I do with this? What I might do is go ahead and click on some of the others so I at least have more than one. Right, so it looks better, right? But when I'm talking to a seller, I only need one good comp. Right, and I could say, here, look at this one. Look familiar? Same layout, a little bit bigger, right? Read their, what they say the property looks like. How does that match yours? That's our one comp. And we're gonna price based on that, right? Any questions about that? So you'll notice right off, this particular one, they want $821 a square foot. The one that sold, that was built the same year, not too far away, sold for $727 a square foot. That means their description better be better than that other one, right? There must be something that would justify the higher dollars per square foot. Something big, like they put shelves under the stairs, huh? Ever had a seller say that? That's worth 50 extra, isn't it? The shelves, is that, right? But anyhow, so close. So we don't have a lot, but if I were going to run this to show it to somebody, I would be looking for, I wouldn't use, see this one, they used a 1924 one. I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't use a 1939 one either. 1951, everybody see we don't have a lot of good comps. I would be simply, by the way, what did we show our buyer? We showed him that one, right? We represented the buyer. We showed him that one. Right, and we made an offer based on that, and the seller wanted more. So we move on. Any questions about that? Now, this one isn't a very elegant looking one. I'm going to throw in, because 3 is what they'll tell you in classes you ought to have. So we've got 3, but we know that the low end of that range, the 907, is the one that is the closest comp. It's given us a range. Now, what are we doing with that range? We're trying to match what we see in our property with the ones that we're using as the comps. Notice how it blows off the price, goes up $125,000. So what I'm oftentimes doing when I see this big of a range, I notice that it's the 1,000 per square foot that's throwing us off. That's the high mark. And so I might go down. Where is it? It must be here someplace, because it's right. Well, I could just do it here. 321, 22, 32. Where's the 1,000? Here we go. This one here, right? Notice its dollars per square foot is significantly higher, built at a different time. I might pull that up and look at it and see, is this really, you can't really see that much, but is this really a good comp? And if it throws it off, what I'll do is I will remove some of them until we get within a more reasonable range. Can everybody see there's only really one comp? Only one. And there's not much we can do to make more. All right, so let's say we've made one and we're happy. We hit update valuation and close, and we could then create a report. What report? Oh, let's do adjust comps. Let me talk about that. You can adjust comps and you can refine value. It's a dangerous thing. When would I use either of these? This is being recorded, I should be careful. When I'm trying to buy the listing, right? When I'm trying to buy the listing. Now, what do I mean by buying the listing? So I'm on the phone, I say, okay, great, Mr. Smith, I'm looking at, could you tell me why you're interested in selling your house at this time? Really? All right, you're moving, oh, really? Where you're moving there, right? Why are you moving to Arizona? Oh, really? Your daughter's gonna have children, you wanna be with the all right, that's great. So as I'm asking questions, will you describe your property for me? And they're describing the property. And have you done any modifications to your property? made any improvements, any renovations, and they start listing things. One of the other questions I will ask among the list is, do you get stuff in the mail from like real estate agents? Have you been following what's going on in your market? Do you have an idea of what your house is likely to sell for? Now, you'll be surprised at how many people blurt out a number, right? They just blurt out a number. 1 million. Cool. Now I know. Now I know. They want 1 million. Now, if I wanted to, could I adjust comps and refine the value in such a way that that 900,000 all of a sudden becomes 1 million? Well, how would you do that? Well, they told me what they did. Now you'll notice that we only have 2 comps here, but you see those little sliders. So with the slide, this is not pinpoint accuracy, but the question is our property better than or worse than the comps? Let's say we're better. So we're gonna just click here a little bit. Notice what it did. It just, how does this property, I went the wrong direction. How does this property compare to the subject property? It's worse. It's not better. Ours has shelves under the stairs, and this one doesn't. So when I move the slider over, what it does is it starts adjusting the value. Tick the slider over, estimated value goes up. Tick it the other way, estimated value goes down. Does everybody see this? You can manipulate the comps. Now, I'm not saying manipulate in a, we're going to like buy the listing. I'm saying to make it reflect what they say they've done, right? Does everybody understand that we can move the sliders back and forth and that makes us an adjustment? The reason that I would recommend not spending a lot of time doing that is because this is not that accurate. You know what I mean? You know, but we're going to go ahead and accept it. Now, the other option I had, besides putting down the comps, which is sort of what we're doing, here, I'll go ahead and do this. The other thing I could do is I can refine the value. I've already gone past that part, but notice one of the choices is refine the value. Now, what refine the value does is it's going to allow us, first of all, to put in our changes, 5.3 whatever. It also allows us to put in improvements. So let's say they said that they did a major kitchen remodel, and they did it in January of January of 2019, let's just say January 2019, and they spent $30,000, right? Now, this data comes from a company called Hanley Wood, which I'm not expecting that you know who they are. They publish remodeling.com. You may not be, but what they do that most real estate agents, or many, are familiar with is something called the cost versus value report. Ever hear of that? Cost versus value. So just because somebody paid $30,000 to upgrade their kitchen does not mean that's going to translate into $30,000 in additional price. Not necessarily. Some things actually are worth more. Painting generally adds more value than it costs, but most do not. So now that I've done that, and if I click on add the improvement, it's going to modify the estimated value again based on the improvement. I got another one. I could add and add and add and add and add. Now, the warning about doing this is that there's an assumption that the improvements that our subject property has are not in the comparables, right? Because if they are, then adding, you understand, we lower the comparable for the one that doesn't have it, but we don't, yes, everybody understand. You have to, because I've had agents do this, they add all the things they did, and I look at the comps, they've all got that too. right? So that's not, it's just, it's a match, not addition. So is that clear? We do this when we've got something that the comps do not have. Can you see how I could come up with almost any number playing with this, right? I actually had a client say to me, it's amazing your CMA matches exactly the price I gave you. Isn't that all? Yeah, yeah, isn't that amazing? Anyhow, I'm not going to get into all that. Local, refine the value. What's going on in the market? Is it hot? Is it slow? Condition. Do you understand? More sliders. We can move sliders all day long until we end up with something that's a little bit better. I don't know. Any questions about that? I wouldn't spend a lot of time modifying the comps. All right. What else would you like to talk about? How about what kind of report? Let's do this. So let's say if I were going to show the property, when we click on reports, this is new. Notice there's all these different templates. We're going to pick buyer. I like the new ones better. But here it is. It shows you this is what it's going to look like. We're going to hit continue. It's got the address already. Buyer sounds good to me. We hit continue. And it is now running a new generation report, right? Looks nice, all that kind of stuff. We can eliminate sections. We could move them around. If we said, well, I want market trends to be up here, and you can move it around. A warning is market activity. The warning is, what does RPR do to determine market activity? And the answer is it basically looks at everything in the zip code that sold, active, pending in the last 30 days. Everything. That's their idea. That's a market report. Everything. Okay. All right. Everything. Now, I've had clients, I stopped giving them that segment because I've had clients find comps in the market report. They'll say, well, wait a second. We saw one here, it's a 3.2, about the same in 1957, and it was over 1.2. Well, but yeah, it's on the other side of town and it doesn't really match. And then they say, well, then why did you include it? Uh, um, uh, the software did it. And I didn't look at it before I gave it to you. How about that? Okay. What could go wrong with that answer, right? So do you understand? I do not give sellers or buyers the market report. The market report I might use in other instances, but I don't want them confused. If we're talking about comps, I only want to show them comps, not everything that is sold, right? Schools, they have school reports and school rankings. Dangerous, dangerous, right? I sold a house on Bellagio, which is in Cambrian Park. One half of the street, Santa Teresa High School. Other half of the street, Lee High School. Does that make a difference? It makes a big difference, right? Lee is a much higher rated school than Santa Teresa. So can you see that it's dangerous? Because if you're selling a house on the Santa Teresa side and you say it's in Lee High School, again, you might meet lawyers, right? At some point when they find out it's not the right school. So you need to be, we have school reports, but you might want to clarify which are the schools. By the way, if you're doing an open house or talking to a buyer, do you think they might expect you to know what the elementary, middle, and high school is for that property? You think they might ask that? Yeah. And if you say, oh, I can go look it up later. Aren't you glad you signed a exclusive buyer representation agreement with me? Anyhow, so I don't include, if this is a pricing strategy and stuff like that, I don't include the about RPR because who cares? I'm just giving them information and some comps on the property. Custom pages, if it's a listing and I have a marketing plan, I could include it. If it's a buyer and I have my buyer value proposition, I could include it. My resume, a picture of me holding trophies, right? Isn't that what real estate agents do, right? You know, jumping in front of a house holding my trophy. Isn't that I make a note of that. That sounds like, all right. So, all right, any questions about this? And you ought to just play around and run some and make sure you modify your cover page. Let me just do that because I told you I wasn't going to do the profile, but I'm kind of cheating. So notice this says it has the corporate address of EXP. Yeah, all right. Well, that's not, you know, what you can do. How am I doing on time? Oh, am I late already almost? We're going to do a couple of more things. You can modify what it says on the cover. So I don't use our San Ramon corporate address because who cares, right? The law does not require you put down the address of your broker, right? So I don't. But you can modify what you have there. You need to say the broker's name and you need to have your DRE number if you didn't know. So what else can we do? I'm going to go through some of this quickly. Research. How about residential market trends? And let's say I'm a Morgan hillbilly. So Morgan Hill, here we go, Morgan Hill, California. Now, what it will automatically do is it'll give me a bunch of these little cards that tell me it's a seller's market, balance market, buyer's market, days on market, all that information. The downside of RPR's database is that it's updated once a month at the end of the month, and it takes a week to do the update. So if you're looking at data 2 weeks into, what month are we? September, it's giving you August data, right? Is it possible that the market has changed? Right, it's possible. What can you do with this? Let me see. What can you do with this? You can hit share, and what it's going to do is create a social media post for you, which you could post directly by clicking on one of those, or under more, you could download it as a image or copy it. If you're saying, well, gee, I just don't know what to say, you click on create script, and the AI program in RPR is going to create a script. If you want to make a video, it will allow you to make a video using the script and its graphic. If you don't want to sound too professional or you want to be more casual, you can change the tone. You can create social media posts. Let's just do one, and it's going to write a script using AI. How hard is this? Not hard. How many agents actually do it on a regular basis? Very few, very few. But here's the script, all right? Now, I've covered what I think the most useful parts of RPR is, which really, I know there's a whole bunch of different things we could do. We could, let me just show you this for those of you that really want to see. If we go to the home page and we go to property search, oops, I didn't want to do that. Notice the different things we can search. One of them is public records. I can search all the public records in practically anywhere in the United States. One of the things about RPR is it works outside of California. It's not your MLS. That also means it may have more comps. Does everyone understand that our MLS may not have all the comps because if the sale was through an MLS not allied with ours, it won't appear in the MLS, but it appears in RPR, right? So let's say we want to find things that are for public records. When would we use this? The last time I used it, we were looking for multifamily properties. I could put in a price range. I can put in more filters. I can say I'm looking for a particular kind of property within a certain price range. Using the RPR valuation model, it can tell me all the homes in a given area that are worth this range. I also could say, I want pre-foreclosure properties. I want notices of default. I want notices of sale. And it'll give them to me. It'll search them. Do I use this often? No, I use this when we're looking for non-listed properties, right? To contact, call, or whatever. All right. I want to see something cool. Maybe not, right? 'Cause so far it's been pretty bad. I know. Chat GPT. What I did this morning was, because I, don't have anything else really to do. I asked, what I did with Chat GPT is I went to the MLS and will it open it up for me? I went to the MLS. Nah, it won't open it for me. I went to the MLS and I ran everything that has happened in the last 30 days in Morgan Hill, everything. Active, pending, canceled, expired, withdrawn, everything. There's a status change date in the MLS. I put 0 - 30. I then picked the new version of the MLS Quick CMA. I downloaded it. I uploaded it into ChatGPT and I said, I am a real estate agent in Morgan Hill. This is what the MLS shows for the past 30 days. What insights do you see in this report? How could I use it for prospecting for clients or communicating with current prospects? Fair question. It said, hold my beer. And it started spitting out stuff. It read all of that data. It's giving me prospecting tips. There's a bunch of expireds and cancels. Homes in Morgan Hill, things to say. Homes in Morgan Hill are still closing over asking. It's giving me days on market. It's actually giving me words that I might be able to say. Whatever your stage, first time condo, move up, family home, or exclusive executive estate, Morgan Hill has an option right now. Right? Because there's so much inventory in Morgan Hill. Everybody see, but then I say, and here's some samples communicating with clients, but then I say, yeah, give me something I could send to them. Spit out a report. Now, this is based upon what the MLS said happened this morning. MLS updates every 15 minutes, right? This has got probably more data than RPR. All right, so it gave me something I could just copy that, what it means for you, neighborhood updates. Oh, that's nice. But I hear that the social media is sort of a good thing. So it then created a social media post that I could copy and paste. It then asks me, if you like that, would you like me to make images, me being ChatGPT, that you could use in a carousel style version on, LinkedIn or whatever. I didn't have time for all of that, so I simply told it, make me an image snapshot of the results, which I could download and paste on social media. Can everybody understand why even RPR CMA, there's already Chat GPT CMA software out there. So a lot of the time, why do I use RPR to do the CMA? Because it takes me like 2 minutes. Find the property, CMA, search, radius, hit, check, report. That's it, right? I got something. But if I really wanted to dig into what's happening in the market, I would run the whole MLS, export it, upload it into either Gemini or ChatGPT. Sometimes I do both. Most of the time I do both just to see if they agree with each other, which, by the way, they almost always do. So I'm like, all right, good to go.
I have 2 questions on
Uh-oh.
Zoom. Where do we find the dynamic report we can send to clients?
The dynamic reports, there's a someplace in my handout. Do I have a handout? Someplace I had a handout. But it's not there. It's not there. The handout that I handed out earlier, which I don't have, has a chart of all the different reports. Right? There's a chart. And in the chart, it shows which ones are dynamic. The ones that are used most is the market report and the neighborhood report. Because those are, the market report is everything that's happening in the market. That's a dynamic link. It's a static link to dynamic information. So the link doesn't change, but as new listings come on and others leave, it will automatically update. It also, the neighborhood report is a dynamic report, but what it's updating is demographic information, right? Which doesn't change that much. I'm not that convinced that the dynamic report is such a big deal, but right, it won't do it for a CMA, right? It only really the neighborhood and the if you ran them a property report and sent it to them and the status changed, that would update automatically, right? That's a dynamic. That's one of the dynamic things. Jody ran out. Any other questions? Yes. The automated, they don't really say, but they run their data at the end of every month. So I would say it's every 30 days or so.
Last time was July 11th, 2008.
Well, that's the reason why it's probably accurate if the year was 2008. I don't have an answer for why that's, but most of them, like, if I look at the one that we've been, looking at, here, let me go back. They run their numbers at the end of the month, and it takes a week for them to update. Now, if we go back to this one, I'll have to look and see what it says, but they're not running it all the time. Let's see. Does it tell me? But they are supposed to do it. So this one was updated 9/13/2025. Yeah. That's what it's supposed to be. They're picking on you. I don't know why. I don't have an answer for that. But this is not a perfect program. What do I use it for? A quick CMA that I can take. Now, the other thing, let me just say why I think ChatGPT and what I did on that is going to be more valuable. There was a time when most real estate agents didn't use RPR because they didn't know, because they don't read their email and they don't ever go to stuff, right? Then some of them said, ooh, this is nice. So, but then when every agent is using RPR, you don't look any different. What is your other choice? There's Cloud CMA. I like Cloud CMA. It's a nice one. But then once they make it available for everybody, everybody's going to use it. And your CMA and the other agent and the other agent and the other agent are made on the same system with the same comps and the same analysis and the same graphs and charts. But you're telling them you're different than the other agents. So I would prefer to run a report using ChatGPT or Gemini about what's going on, because they'll also research price. I mean, you feed it data, it'll create a report. Now we're talking about something custom that looks different. Did you have a question, or do you need to leave for your? Okay.
I had a question,
Okay.
another one over here. What about next gen reports?
That's the ones I've been going through. Next gen
Oh,
reports
sorry.
that's okay. I mean, it's confusing maybe because they have legacy reports, but the default setting right now, see where it says create report? These reports are all next gen. Notice at the bottom, they left it for old real estate agents. The ones that say, well, there's nothing wrong with the CMA report we used to use for all these years. Why did they take it away? Right? You ever met an agent like that? Right? If no, you haven't met enough old agents, but they still have it at the bottom, but those others are the next gen. And notice you can even create some of your own with very limited customization, right? Very limited, which is why run the MLS and do all that. But you see, this is so easy, right? Which is why it's easy. Any more?